In this audiobook, we'll explore what surrender truly means in the context of your life and how this wisdom can profoundly transform your reality. You'll learn why letting go of control doesn't weaken your power. It magnifies it. The quiet power of letting go. Surrender is one of the most misunderstood yet transformative forces in the universe. Often perceived as weakness, giving up, or admitting defeat, true surrender is anything but passive. It is a powerful act of aligning with life's natural rhythms, rather than exhausting yourself fighting against them. You've probably experienced moments where you've poured your heart, soul, and energy into a goal, a business, a relationship, or a deeply personal aspiration, only to find yourself frustrated, stuck, and emotionally drained. Despite your best efforts, the outcomes you desire remain elusive, leaving you feeling disillusioned. You try harder, cling tighter, convinced that just a bit more effort is all it will take. Then comes that pivotal moment of exhaustion when you finally throw your hands in the air and say, "I can't do this anymore." In that moment of release, almost magically, things begin to shift. New opportunities appear, fresh insights arrive, and obstacles effortlessly dissolve. It's as though the instant you stopped forcing your will onto life, the universe stepped in and brought you exactly what you needed. This phenomenon isn't mere coincidence. It's the ancient wisdom of surrender at play. Throughout history, from Taoist masters to mystical sages, great spiritual traditions have understood and taught that surrender isn't about losing control. It's about releasing your grip on the illusion of control. It's about trusting a greater intelligence to guide your journey, allowing life to flow with grace and ease rather than struggle and strain. Chapter 1. The Unseen Battle Within. There is a war going on inside most of us, but it's not loud. It doesn't announce itself with sirens or chaos. It's quiet, subtle, invisible. And yet, it shapes how we experience every moment of our lives. This is the unseen battle within. It's the tension between what is and what we think should be, between the present moment and the imagined version of how life ought to look. You've felt it before. That nagging discomfort when things don't go your way, that restlessness when plans fall apart, the frustration that creeps in when your efforts don't produce the results you expected. This resistance doesn't come from the world around you. It begins inside. It's not your job, your relationship, your bank account, or the timing of life that causes the stress. It's the inner conflict, the refusal to accept what is, that creates your suffering. We've been conditioned to believe that happiness is the result of having all the pieces in place, that once we fix this or change that, then we'll feel peace. But peace isn't something that waits at the finish line. Peace is what happens when we stop fighting with the present moment. The battle within is rooted in control. We resist life because we don't trust it. We think we need to manage every outcome, micromanage the process, and manipulate every variable. But what if that very resistance is what's keeping us stuck? Have you ever noticed that the more tightly you grip, the more drained you feel? That the harder you push, the more life seems to push back? There's a deeper intelligence within you. Call it your higher self, your intuition, your soul. It doesn't operate through fear or urgency. It whispers, it guides, it flows. But when we're busy wrestling with life, we can't hear that guidance. The inner battle drowns it out. And here's the truth. You don't need to win that battle. You need to end it. Letting go of resistance doesn't mean giving up. It means giving in to what already is. It means softening the grip, breathing into the moment, trusting that you are exactly where you're meant to be, even if your mind doesn't agree. This chapter is an invitation to notice the subtle tension you carry, and to gently release it. Ask yourself, where am I pushing too hard? What am I constantly trying to fix or control? What if I allowed things to be just as they are, even for a moment? Awareness is the first step. Noticing the battle is how you begin to lay down your arms. Because the peace you're chasing, it's already here, beneath the noise, behind the resistance, waiting patiently to be uncovered. Let life lead. But first, stop fighting it. Chapter 2. The false safety of control. Control is one of the greatest illusions we carry. It promises stability. It gives the mind something to hold on to. And for a moment, it even feels like power. We make our lists. We set deadlines. We script outcomes in our heads, convinced that if we just try hard enough, everything will go exactly as planned. But does it? More often than not, control turns into tension. It shows up as anxiety, as overthinking, as sleepless nights spent calculating every possible scenario. It becomes a constant effort to stay one step ahead of uncertainty. And yet, life doesn't work on our timelines. It doesn't follow our scripts. It moves with its own rhythm, guided by an intelligence we can't always comprehend. Trying to control life is like trying to hold water in your hands. The tighter you squeeze, the faster it slips through your fingers. And still, we cling to control because it feels safer than surrender. But is it really? Think about the moments when you've tried the hardest to force an outcome. How did you feel? Tired? Frustrated? Disconnected? Because control is a full-time job, and the more you try to manage everything, the more disconnected you become from the present moment, the only place where life actually happens. Here's what control is really rooted in: fear. Fear that if we don't take over, things will fall apart. Fear that the universe doesn't have our back. Fear that we won't be okay unless things go exactly as we planned. But what if that fear is based on a misunderstanding? What if letting go doesn't mean chaos, but clarity? What if surrendering control doesn't mean losing your power, but aligning with a greater one? The most powerful people aren't those who try to control everything. They're the ones who trust their timing, who move with intention, but not desperation, who allow life to surprise them. Letting go of control doesn't mean becoming passive. It means becoming wise. It means recognizing when action is needed and when it's time to pause. It means doing your part, then stepping back with trust instead of fear. Because when you trust the unfolding, something shifts. You start to notice the synchronicities. You feel less burdened, more aligned. And life begins to meet you halfway. Here's the truth that so few people understand. Control is exhausting. Trust is liberating. So ask yourself, where am I trying to micromanage life? What am I afraid will happen if I let go, even a little? What would it feel like to trust that what's meant for me won't miss me? You are allowed to take a breath. You are allowed to release the white-knuckle grip. You are allowed to let life carry you, just a little more. Because real safety doesn't come from control. It comes from connection, to yourself, to the moment, to something greater than your fear. Let life lead. It knows the way better than you think. Chapter 3. The weight of wanting. Wanting is natural. It's human to dream, to long, to hope for more. Desire is the spark behind all growth. It moves us forward, gives us direction. But when desire turns into desperation, it becomes heavy. We carry it like a burden. And without realizing it, the thing we want most begins to feel just out of reach. Why? Because wanting, when charged with urgency, creates resistance. It amplifies the energy of lack. It tells the universe, I don't have this. I need this. Something is missing. And the universe, always responding to your frequency, reflects that message right back. The more you need it, the more it slips away. This is the weight of wanting. We want love. We want success. We want freedom, peace, abundance, happiness. But when these desires become tangled with fear, pressure, or identity, they stop flowing. We grip. We chase. We overthink. And in doing so, we interrupt the natural current of manifestation. It's like staring at the sky and begging for the sun to rise faster. The sun is coming, but your anxious waiting won't make it appear any sooner. It only robs you of the beauty of the dawn that's already unfolding. There's nothing wrong with desire. Desire is sacred, but it needs space. It needs softness. It needs to be held with open hands, not clenched fists. So what happens when we let go of needing and move into preference? Instead of, I must have this or I'll fall apart. We say, I would love this, and I trust life to bring what's right. It's not apathy, it's alignment. This shift lightens the energy, it removes the friction, and it allows the universe to move on your behalf. It also shifts you from the frequency of lack to the frequency of receiving. Wanting often says, I'm waiting, but trusting says, I'm ready. Ask yourself, where in my life am I wanting something so badly that it's starting to feel heavy? Am I chasing this desire from fear or from flow? What would change if I stopped needing it and simply welcomed it? Your desires are not wrong. They're just not meant to control you. Let them breathe. Let them unfold. Let life participate in the dance of bringing them to you. Because when you stop chasing, you start attracting. Let life lead. Desire lightly and trust deeply. Desire lightly and trust deeply. Chapter 4. Trusting the pause. There's a moment between what you ask for and when it arrives. A space. A silence. A pause. It's the in-between, the part no one talks about enough. The place after the intention is set, the action is taken, and before the outcome has had time to appear. This space can feel endless, uncomfortable, even agonizing, because our minds crave immediacy. We want feedback, results, confirmation that we're on the right track. But life doesn't rush, it unfolds. And the pause? It's not a punishment, it's preparation. In the stillness, things are happening. Roots are growing beneath the surface, energy is shifting, people are aligning, opportunities are forming, and timing is being refined, outside the view of your current awareness. Yet this is where most people panic. They start doubting themselves, doubting the process, questioning everything. They dig up the seeds they planted, trying to check if they're growing. But growth doesn't happen under scrutiny. It happens in trust. Think of nature. A tree doesn't grow by being forced. The seasons don't bloom because we demand them to. They follow a rhythm, a cycle, and so does your life. The pause between where you are and where you want to be is not empty. It is sacred. It is the space where surrender is tested and refined. Most people confuse waiting with wasting. They think, if nothing's happening on the outside, I must be doing something wrong. But the pause is rarely about doing, it's about being. Being patient, being still, being willing to believe that life is working, even if you can't see the evidence yet. This is the part where you lean into faith, not blind optimism, but deep, quiet trust that what is meant for you cannot pass you by, and that what's unfolding is always aligned with your highest good, even when it's not immediate, even when it's not obvious. We've been taught that action equals progress. But in truth, some of the greatest progress comes when we step back, when we don't interfere, when we give life room to surprise us. That's the power of the pause. It's where the magic brews beneath the surface. It's where timing is honored over force. It's where we learn to stop reacting and start receiving. So instead of resisting the pause, what if you respected it? Instead of doubting it, what if you bowed to it, knowing it's a divine part of your journey? Here are a few gentle reminders for when you're in the pause. You are not behind. You're being realigned. The silence doesn't mean absence. It means preparation. Delays are often divine protection in disguise. Ask yourself, where in my life am I rushing toward an answer instead of sitting in the question? Am I allowing myself to be present in the pause, or am I trying to bypass it? What would happen if I trusted this moment just as much as I trust the outcome? The truth is, how you hold yourself in the pause determines what unfolds on the other side of it. Panic creates noise. Trust creates clarity. Let yourself breathe here. Let yourself soften. And know that in this space, where nothing seems to be happening, everything is already in motion. Let life lead. Trust the pause. It knows exactly what it's doing. Chapter 5. Becoming a mirror for flow. Life is always responding to you, not just to your words or your goals, but to your state, your energy, your vibration, your inner atmosphere. We often think the external world must change before we can feel peace, joy, or abundance. But in truth, the outside is only ever reflecting the inside. You are not separate from the flow of life. You are a participant in it. And the most powerful shift you can make is to stop chasing life and become a mirror for it. Think about water for a moment. Still water reflects clearly, but when disturbed, when agitated or muddy, it distorts everything. The same is true for your consciousness. When your inner world is calm, trusting, and open, you reflect and attract experiences that mirror that state. When it's cluttered with resistance, control, and emotional noise, life seems chaotic, uncooperative, or even hostile. It's not personal, it's energetic. This is why people who seem to effortlessly attract what they want are often the ones who embody inner ease. They're not trying to manipulate outcomes. They've become magnetic, not by chasing, but by aligning. You can feel it in them. There's no rush, no tight grip, just presence, just trust. And that presence is powerful. It's not that they don't take action, they do. But it's inspired action, not frantic motion. They respond to life, rather than react to fear. So how do you become a mirror for flow? It starts with inner alignment. You must become the state you want to attract. You want peace? Cultivate it now. You want abundance? Begin to feel abundant now, not someday. You want clarity? Create space for it now by stilling the mental noise. This isn't pretending. It's not about faking it. It's about tuning in to the version of you who already lives in that reality and letting their energy rise to the surface. Because what you radiate, life reflects. And it's not just about emotions either. It's your beliefs, your expectations, your tone when you speak, the subtle way you treat yourself when no one's watching. You're always broadcasting. The question is, what signal are you sending? The universe doesn't respond to words, it responds to energy. So if your energy is scattered, uncertain, desperate, it delays what you want. Not out of punishment, but because the signal is unclear. But when you ground into who you are, when you relax into trust and show up from a place of inner wholeness, everything shifts. Life meets you where you are, not where you're pretending to be, not where you wish you were, but where you truly are. So ask yourself, am I sending out the energy I want to receive? Is my inner world in alignment with the life I say I want? What would shift if I focused less on chasing and more on becoming? This is what it means to mirror the flow. It's not about waiting for life to deliver something that will change you. It's about becoming the change that transforms how life responds. The river doesn't chase the stones. It flows around them, and it keeps flowing, no matter what. You too can become fluid, grounded, magnetic, aligned. Let life lead, and let yourself reflect its rhythm. Not with force, but with presence. The more you embody the frequency of ease, trust, and openness, the more the world reflects it back to you. Chapter 6. Releasing Identity Attachments. So much of our resistance to life isn't rooted in the world around us. It's rooted in who we believe we have to be. We carry identities like armor. I am the achiever. I am the fixer. I'm the one who has it all together. I'm strong, so I can't fall apart. I'm spiritual, so I must never feel fear. These roles may have served a purpose at some point. They helped us feel safe, accepted, or worthy. But over time, they become rigid masks, and masks are heavy. They keep us in resistance, not just to change, but to truth. They make it hard to breathe, hard to evolve, hard to flow, because every identity comes with unspoken rules. What you should do, how you should act, what emotions you're allowed to feel, what version of success or worth you must constantly chase. And so, we hold tightly to these roles, because we fear that without them, we'll be nothing. But here's the deeper truth. You are not your identity. You are not your labels. You are not your past, your titles, your status, or even your story. You are the awareness behind it all. The witness, the presence, the stillness underneath the surface. When you believe too strongly in who you're supposed to be, you block who you're becoming. Your identity becomes a prison, And the more you try to live up to it, the more disconnected you feel from the deeper flow of life. True surrender asks you to loosen your grip, not just on circumstances, but on the persona you think you need to maintain. Sometimes the hardest part of letting go isn't the outcome. It's letting go of the version of you that was attached to that outcome. Maybe the you who needed validation no longer needs to prove anything. Maybe the you who used to fix everything can now rest. Maybe the you who always had the answers can finally be okay with not knowing. There is freedom in unbecoming. And in that space, once the mask falls away, you don't lose yourself. You return to something more real, something unshakable, something eternal. This doesn't mean you abandon your responsibilities or forget your strengths. It means you stop confusing them with your essence. You are allowed to evolve. You are allowed to let go of the old roles that no longer feel true. You are allowed to rewrite your story without explanation. Ask yourself, what identities am I clinging to out of fear? Who would I be without this role or label? Where am I performing instead of simply being? Release the pressure. Release the act. Let life meet you without the mask. Because the real you, the one that's always been beneath the layers, is not trying to be anything. They are simply being. That's where peace lives. That's where flow begins, not in the image, but in the essence. Let life lead, and let yourself be seen, not as a role, but as the truth behind it all. And let yourself be seen, not as a role, but as the truth behind it all. Chapter 7. From Forcing to Flowing. There's a rhythm to life, a natural cadence that carries everything from the tides to the seasons to the unfolding of your own becoming. But we often move out of sync with that rhythm. Instead of listening, we push. Instead of waiting, we rush. Instead of flowing, we force. From a young age, we're conditioned to believe that effort is everything. If you're not grinding, you're falling behind. If it's not hard, it must not be valuable. So we build lives around force. We strive, we hustle, we attach our worth to our productivity. And yes, effort is important. Discipline matters. Taking action absolutely plays a role in growth and achievement. But there's a difference between aligned action and misaligned force. Force is when you try to push something into existence before it's ready. It's like yanking a flower out of the ground, hoping it will bloom faster. It's frantic, desperate, tense, and it often leaves you drained, resentful, or confused when things still don't work out. Have you ever had a moment where you worked endlessly on a project, relationship, or goal, giving it your all, and it still didn't unfold the way you hoped? That's not failure. That's feedback. Feedback that the energy behind your actions might be out of sync with the natural flow. Because when you're in flow, everything feels different. Flow doesn't mean doing nothing. It means doing what's right. At the right time. For the right reasons. From the right state of being. When you act from flow, you're no longer trying to force outcomes. You're moving with life. Listening. Responding. Acting from intuition, not anxiety. This creates a subtle but powerful shift in how you show up. In flow, your actions are guided, not driven. They're sustainable, not depleting. They come from a place of trust, not fear. Imagine standing in a river. When you resist the current, you struggle. You tense up. You waste energy. But when you release, the river carries you. You're still moving, but you're no longer fighting. This is what life feels like when you flow instead of force. Flow invites you to tune in before you act, to get quiet enough to feel what your next step really is, rather than what your fear tells you to do. It teaches you patience. It honors timing. It respects your energy. And more importantly, it aligns you with a bigger intelligence. Because your highest path won't always make sense to your logical mind, but it will feel right in your body. It will feel calm, clear, and surprisingly simple. So what gets in the way of flow? Usually, it's the belief that you have to do everything, that if you stop pushing, nothing will happen. That rest means laziness, or trust means irresponsibility. But flow isn't passive. It's participatory. You still show up. You just do so with wisdom and presence. Ask yourself honestly, where am I forcing something that isn't aligned? What would it feel like to take action from calm certainty, not chaos? What's the smallest shift I could make today from pressure to presence? This shift might be subtle, but it changes everything. You'll find that solutions come more easily. Conversations go more smoothly. Opportunities appear with less struggle. And most importantly, you feel good in the process. Because success at the cost of your well-being isn't really success. Accomplishment without joy isn't worth the price. The more you lean into flow, the more life starts to respond differently. Not because you're doing less, but because you're finally doing what matters most, from the right state. Let this be your reminder. You don't have to force your way through life. You're allowed to move with grace. You're allowed to pause, listen, and act from alignment. You're allowed to trust the timing of your life. So let go of the grip. Soften your pace. Choose flow over force. And let life lead. Chapter 8. The Surrender Ritual. Surrender isn't just a concept. It's a practice. A living, breathing relationship with life itself. And like any meaningful relationship, it deepens when you show up for it, again and again, with presence, with patience, with trust. In the earlier chapters, we've explored surrender as a path, one that leads away from control and into flow, away from force and into alignment. But what does surrender look like in action? What can we do, day by day, moment by moment, to release resistance and realign with the rhythm of life? The answer lies in ritual, not as a rigid routine or a checklist of spiritual tasks, but as a sacred practice of remembering. Because the truth is, you don't need to become anything to surrender. You simply need to return to your breath, your body, your presence, your deeper knowing. This chapter offers you a simple, gentle, and powerful practice I call the surrender ritual. It's not complicated. It doesn't require hours of silence or special conditions. But if practiced consistently, it will shift your entire relationship with resistance. Let's walk through it together. Step 1. Pause and presence. Every ritual begins with a return to presence. So often, our resistance builds silently, in the background of a busy mind. We don't even realize we're holding on until our body feels tight, our mind feels noisy, or our emotions begin to spiral. So the first step is to pause. Stop what you're doing. Take a breath. Feel your feet on the ground. Notice where your body is tense, where your breath is shallow, where your thoughts are racing. You're not trying to fix anything yet. You're just arriving, here, now, fully. This presence is the gateway to surrender. You can't let go of what you don't even realize you're holding. So ask yourself, where am I holding on right now? What am I resisting in this moment? Is there a tightness I've been ignoring? Awareness is the beginning of release. Step 2. Feel without fixing. Once you've paused, the next step is to feel, gently, courageously, honestly. We've been conditioned to believe that uncomfortable emotions need to be solved, silenced, or suppressed. But emotions are simply energy in motion. When you allow them to move through you, they lose their grip on you. So instead of asking, how do I stop feeling this? Ask, can I sit with this just for a moment? Whether it's fear, sadness, anger, frustration, or uncertainty, give it room. Place a hand on your heart or your belly. Close your eyes if you feel safe. Breathe into the emotion. Let it rise. Let it speak. Let it soften. You are not your emotion. You are the one witnessing it. This step is not about wallowing or dramatizing. It's about creating space, internally, for the energy to move, shift, and eventually dissolve. Step 3. Release the grip. After you've felt what needs to be felt, surrender invites you to release, not by force, but through trust. This is where you let go of the story, the timeline, the should have or what if. The illusion that you can control the outcome by obsessing over it. This is the step where you exhale, where you give life permission to take the lead. One of the most powerful ways to release is to speak it out loud, or silently within. I don't have to carry this alone. I trust that life knows what I cannot see. I surrender this to the universe. I release the outcome. I return to peace. You might even visualize yourself placing the worry or desire into a flowing river or handing it to a trusted guide. Let it float away, not because you don't care, but because you care enough to trust. Step 4. Align with ease. Surrender isn't about passivity. It's about choosing aligned action. Action that honors where you are and how you feel. So once you've released, ask, what would bring me peace right now? What is the next smallest step I can take that feels light, not forced? How can I honor my energy while remaining open to life? Sometimes the answer will be rest. Sometimes it will be speaking your truth. Other times, it will be allowing joy without guilt. Whatever arises, let it come from alignment, not fear. Let your actions be rooted in clarity, not control. This is the shift from trying to make things happen to allowing them to unfold. Step 5. Anchor the energy. To complete the ritual, take a moment to anchor the feeling of surrender in your body. Breathe deeply. Place both hands over your heart or rest them gently in your lap. Feel the spaciousness that comes after release. Feel the calm that enters when resistance exits. You might whisper a word of gratitude, a prayer, or simply sit in silence. This anchoring teaches your body what surrender feels like, not as an idea, but as a state of being. The more familiar it becomes, the more naturally it arises in your daily life. A practice, not perfection. Remember, surrender is not a one-time event. It's not a switch you flip. It's a practice, a rhythm, a remembering. There will be days when it feels easy to let go, and others where the grip returns quickly. That's okay. That's human. The goal is not perfection, it's presence. Every time you pause, feel, release, and realign, you're teaching your nervous system that peace is safe. You're training your energy to flow instead of freeze. You're learning how to live, not from fear, but from freedom. Let the surrender ritual become your soft reset. A homecoming, a sanctuary. Not just in crisis, but in the everyday moments when resistance creeps in quietly. Before the spiral, before the story, before the storm. You can always return. Let life lead, and let surrender become the way you walk through it. Chapter 9. Faith beyond the mind. Surrender and faith are inseparable. Without faith, surrender feels impossible. Without surrender, faith remains theory, an idea held in the mind, but not embodied in the heart. And yet, for many of us, faith is one of the hardest things to access. Not because we don't want to believe, but because we've been taught that faith must come with certainty. That trusting life means knowing what's coming, seeing the path clearly, feeling in control. But that's not how real faith works. True faith begins when certainty ends. It begins when the mind doesn't have the answers. But something deeper in you says, keep going anyway. The limits of mental faith. There's a kind of faith that lives in the intellect. It's built on logic, pattern recognition, spiritual quotes, and positive thinking. It sounds like, I trust the universe because it's worked out before. I believe everything happens for a reason because I've read that it does. I'll stay positive because that's how I'll attract good things. This kind of faith isn't wrong. It can be helpful, but it's conditional, fragile, easily shaken when life doesn't match the mental script. Mental faith says, I trust, as long as things go according to plan. But what happens when the plan unravels? When the job falls through? When the relationship ends? When the manifestation delays? When the mind has no explanation for why life is unfolding the way it is? That's when we need a different kind of faith, not one that lives in the mind, but one that rises from the body. One that's felt, not forced. Known, not explained. This is faith beyond the mind. What faith feels like. Real faith isn't always loud. It's not fireworks or thunder or some grand revelation. It's quiet, stable, steady. It's the gentle okayness that lives under uncertainty. It's the deep breath when nothing is clear, and yet you trust you're still supported. It's waking up in the dark, not knowing what comes next, but knowing you don't need to figure it all out today. Faith, in its purest form, is not a belief. It's a frequency. It's the vibration of trust, of leaning back into life instead of leaning forward in fear, of releasing the need to understand and allowing the mystery to hold you. You may not be able to explain it, but you'll feel it in your nervous system. You'll feel it in your body when it softens, in your breath when it slows, in your heart when it opens again after closing. Why we resist faith. So why do we struggle to embody this level of trust? Because the mind is trained for survival, not surrender. It wants control, predictability, safety. It believes that if it can just figure it out, it can avoid pain. So when you start practicing faith, your mind may resist. It may say, "This is irresponsible. You need a plan." Or, "If you let go now, everything might fall apart." Or, "What if this time it doesn't work out?" But here's what the mind doesn't realize. Faith doesn't mean you stop caring. It means you stop fearing. It means you do what you can, and then you release the rest. It means you trust that life isn't punishing you. It's preparing you. It means you believe that even when the path is unclear, your steps are still guided. And eventually, the more you embody that energy, the more the mind begins to soften too. Not because it's been convinced, but because it can finally feel what trust really means. Faith is a practice. Just like surrender, faith is not something you master once. It's a practice, a presence, a way of relating to life. You won't always get it right. You'll have days when the fear feels louder than the trust, when the mind wants to control everything again. But that doesn't mean you've failed. Faith is not the absence of doubt. It's choosing to trust even when doubt is present. It's saying, even though I don't know, I believe something deeper does. Even though I can't see the full picture, I know I'm being led. Even though this moment is uncertain, I choose to rest instead of resist. And with each small moment of trust, your faith grows stronger. Not in theory, in embodiment. It becomes your default, not just your fallback. How to cultivate embodied faith. Here are some gentle ways to begin embodying faith, not just as a thought, but as a state. 1. Return to the breath. Your breath is a constant mirror of your trust. When you're holding on tight, your breath becomes shallow, tense. When you trust, it slows, deepens, expands. Let your breath teach your body how to surrender, moment by moment. 2. Speak to the part of you that knows. Even in confusion, there is a part of you that already trusts. You can access it by placing a hand on your heart and asking, "What would the calmest version of me do right now?" Or whispering, "I don't know how, but I trust it's all unfolding." 3. Surrender small things daily. You don't have to leap straight into blind faith. Start small. Surrender a minor worry, a simple plan, a tight expectation. As you watch life respond, your trust will deepen naturally. 4. Use grounding affirmations. I am supported, even when I can't see it. The universe knows what I don't. I relax into what's unfolding. Repeat slowly. Breathe them in. Let the words become real in your body. 5. Reflect on past evidence. Think back to times when things worked out in unexpected ways, when delays became redirections, when breakdowns became breakthroughs. Let your own life remind you that you've been carried before, and you will be again. Let trust become your frequency. In the end, faith beyond the mind is not about getting every answer right. It's about learning how to listen again, how to rest inside the unknown, how to allow yourself to be led. You don't need to figure everything out. You don't need to push so hard. You don't need to hold the weight of the entire outcome. You're allowed to trust that something wiser is guiding you. Faith won't always feel convenient, but it will always feel correct once you surrender to it. Let life lead, and let your trust become the foundation of everything you create, receive, and become. You create, receive, and become. Chapter 10. Let Life Lead. There comes a point on every inner journey when we stop asking, how do I fix this? And instead we begin to wonder, how can I let life show me the way? This is the moment surrender becomes a way of living, not just a practice during hard times. Letting life lead isn't about stepping aside and doing nothing. It's about stepping into alignment and doing the right things from the right energy. It's about learning the difference between control and cooperation, between force and flow. You're not meant to struggle your way into becoming. You're meant to evolve through listening, allowing, trusting, and responding with presence. That is what it means to let life lead. You are not separate from life. Many people imagine life as something outside of them, as if the universe is some external force, handing out blessings or withholding results depending on our worthiness. But you are not separate from life. You are life, the breath in your lungs, the awareness behind your thoughts, the pulse in your chest. That's life moving through you. So when we say, let life lead, we're not saying abandon your power. We're saying align with the intelligence already within you. There is a deeper part of you, beyond the ego, beyond the fear, beyond the striving, that already knows what to do next. Letting life lead is returning to that place. The part of you that trusts without evidence. The part of you that moves from inner clarity instead of outer pressure. The part of you that doesn't chase, because it knows what's yours is already on the way. What letting life lead looks like. Letting life lead is not passive, it's responsive. It means you no longer act from fear-based urgency. Instead, you act from alignment, from presence, from a deeper knowing that reveals itself moment by moment. You still set intentions, but you don't attach to outcomes. You still take action, but it's rooted in guidance, not in grasping. You still make plans, but you hold them lightly, allowing life to surprise you with something better. You let go of needing to figure it all out, and instead, learn to walk one step at a time, with trust as your compass. And when things don't go as planned, you don't spiral into resistance. You pause, you breathe, you ask, what is life trying to teach me right now? And then you listen. This is the dance of surrender. Life moves, you feel, you respond, and in that rhythm, you evolve. The most powerful. You is the most present you. When you stop trying to control everything, something beautiful happens. You become available. Available for synchronicity. Available for joy. Available for guidance, peace, connection, creativity, love. The most powerful version of you isn't the one that has all the answers. It's the one that is deeply, fully here. Here in your body. Here in this breath. Here with what is. That version of you isn't rushing toward the future or stuck in the past. They're rooted in trust. They don't react from fear. They respond from clarity. And because they're open, life can flow through them. Doors open. Ideas arrive. People show up. Because life recognizes its reflection in someone who has made space for it. You don't need to chase your destiny. You need to make room for it. Living as a channel, not a controller. Letting life lead means becoming a channel, not a controller. A channel doesn't block energy. It receives. It moves. It transmits. It releases. That's how life flows best through you. When you stop trying to grip every detail and instead become a vessel for what wants to emerge. This shift requires humility. It means accepting that you don't always know best. It means trusting that what you think you want may be smaller than what life has in store. But it also requires confidence, because following the flow of life, especially when it leads you into uncertainty, takes courage. You'll have to trust yourself deeply. You'll have to choose alignment over approval. You'll have to honor the whispers of your intuition, even when the world is yelling something different. But the reward is freedom. Not freedom from responsibility, but freedom from resistance. Freedom from the constant, exhausting effort to control a life that was never meant to be controlled in the first place. You are already being guided. Even when you can't feel it. Even when things look messy, uncertain, delayed, you are being guided. Life is not random. It is intelligent. And its guidance doesn't always speak through words. It often speaks through feeling. A sudden sense of peace, an unexpected idea, a door that closes just in time. A quiet inner voice that says, wait, or go, or let it go. Letting life lead means learning to trust these nudges, to act when it's time, to rest when it's time, to wait without worry, and to move without needing permission. You won't always understand it in the moment, but over time, you'll look back and see how every step, especially the uncertain ones, was leading you somewhere important. Letting go of the old map. The mind wants maps. It wants to know how every part of the journey will look before it begins. But life doesn't hand you a map. It gives you a compass. And that compass is your alignment, your peace, your energy, your intuition. When you follow that, you'll always find your way. Letting life lead means throwing out the old map, the one built on fear, pressure, and overthinking, and learning to walk by feel. It means saying, I don't know where this is going, but I trust the way it feels. I don't know what's next, but I trust myself to meet it. I don't need to force what's flowing toward me. This is the path of surrendered living. It's not about doing less. It's about doing differently, from a place of ease, from a place of truth, from a place of unwavering trust in the intelligence of life. This is only the beginning. Letting life lead isn't the end of your journey. It's the beginning of a new one. One where you are no longer ruled by fear. One where you no longer confuse effort with worth. One where you don't just survive, you flow. Every pause, every breath, every surrendered moment brings you closer to the truth of who you are. Not the version that chases, but the version that receives. So soften the grip, relax the timeline, come home to yourself. You are not lost. You are being led. Let life lead. And you'll go further than you ever imagined, without the weight, without the war, and without losing yourself along the way. Without the war, and without losing yourself along the way. If you're still here, still listening, still breathing with me, still walking through this space of surrender, then this chapter is just for you. Because you didn't just listen to words, you showed up for yourself. You've traveled through your own resistance. You've touched the quiet places inside, the parts that have been gripping, doubting, holding on. And yet, here you are. That means something. It means a lot. Most people never get this far, not because they can't, but because they stop at discomfort. They stop when surrender feels too uncertain. They stop when control feels safer. But you didn't. You stayed. So this chapter is not about learning something new. It's about recognizing who you've become. You're not who you were when you started. You may not see it yet. You may not be able to measure it or explain it to anyone else, but something in you has shifted. Something softened. Something opened. Something released. Maybe it was a belief. Maybe it was an identity. Maybe it was just the tiniest willingness to trust life again. But that's all it takes. Willingness. Not perfection, not mastery, just presence. Surrender doesn't require you to be some elevated version of yourself. It just asks you to be real, to be with what is, to meet yourself where you are, again and again. And if you've made it here, you've done that. Not once, but over and over, through every breath, every reflection, every page. You've remembered something that's always been true, that you don't need to hold the whole world together, that you're allowed to be supported, that letting go doesn't make you weak, it makes you free. You can return here, anytime. This space we've created together, this energy of surrender and trust, it's not just something you visit, it's something you carry. Even when things get loud again, even when the world pulls you back into urgency, pressure, and noise, even when your old patterns whisper, you're falling behind. You can return here. You can pause. You can breathe. You can remember. You don't need a special moment. You don't need to start over. You just need to feel the part of you that knows the truth, the part we've been listening to all along. That part of you is still here, more present than ever. the life that's waiting for you. So what now?